Welcome on in, folks, to the Slate Edition Wednesday. I'm Jeff Ulrich. We're going to be talking a lot of golf with my friend Reed Fowler. We might hit on some other sports, but really, this is just about the Arnold Palmer Invitational. We'll be with you for the next, we're starting a little bit early today. 30 to 40 minutes here. The Bad Sims finally decided to end just a little bit early because they knew we got a big tournament headed up here. So we're going to be talking Arnold Palmer Invitational. We'll get you guys set up with some bets. We'll go over the fantasy angle, and we'll talk to Mr. Fowler here, who's been on a bit of a heater. Not going to lie. Who were you on last week, Reed? Svensson?
I was on Svensson, Jeff. Happy to be here. I was on Svensson. I was tweeting. Not tweeting, excuse me. If I was tweeting, I'd be bad news. I was texting with you and Emerson about my emotions, my feelings towards Adam Svensson missing every single putt inside 3 feet, Jeff. Every single putt inside 3 feet. Do you know how easy, how hard that is to do? Like you, myself, Samir, Matt, who's also known as Emerson Latzia, but his real name is Matthew. We'll get into that a little bit. He could make a 3-foot putt, but I think that the official tally was he missed, I believe, 6 putts under 6 feet, and then 4 putts, or like around there, under 4 feet on Sunday. The man was first in tee to green, like first in approach, he was first in every category.
Yeah.
And he was third, or like he was 6th worst in putting. But I digress. He was triple digits. He was a long shot. It would have been great to hit that. But I can't be complaining. I've gotten four outrights, 3, runner-up finishes that I didn't back it up with the top 5. So shame on me. And now we're here at API, and hopefully we can make that 5 outrights.
Hey, I mean, we would not mind that at all. Look, you can obviously follow Reed's stuff at DK Nation. You can find my stuff there too. We both got our articles out for the week, but that was a good little recap of the Honda. Just from a perspective of, there's a lot of long shot guys in contention as well. Obviously, Sepp Straka taking it down. Quickly though, let's just wrap up our thoughts there. I mean, Obviously the Berger meltdown, was unexpected. But is there anything else you take from the Honda specifically into this week? As we're talking Arnold Palmer Invitational, obviously we're in the Florida swing, so Florida form and stuff like that. But anything else that kind of you noticed there that might lead people to certain players this week?
Yeah, I mean, clearly it's not over till it's over, right? You tweeted out something last week where you thought Sepp Straka won the tournament that that Daniel Berger won on Friday, according to your timeline.
I got a few tweets that said,
which was great.
On to next week already,
right? Which is great, right? And it's funny. It's funny not like in a literal sense, because it is painful when you see the guys who put their tickets on Twitter of betting Daniel Berger outright. And you and I both have a mutual friend who put his out, who bet a lot of money and thought he was in the clear on Saturday, maybe it was. And, you see Daniel Berger, but and that's what Honda can do. Right. And look, the first 2 days at Honda, they weren't windy at all. Like it wasn't, this complete chaotic event where there's a bunch of wind and, the best scores were, 68 on Friday and Thursday. No, I mean, Berger shot 5 under both days, Thursday, Friday. And even on Sunday, it wasn't extremely windy, but we know that this course dries up. We know that it's not over until it's over. And you got to feel for a guy like Shane Lowry to an extent, right? Because he's a major winner. He's made a ton of money. So you don't feel sorry for the guy. But if they finished an hour earlier, he wouldn't have hit that rain squall that he and Berger hit. So you feel a little bit for him. But other than that, I think this is a fun event. And long shots, man. Long shots are sort of the name of the game at Honda.
3 years in a row, 100 to 1 plus. I think Jones was 140 last year, and Mitchell was definitely pushing the 150 range when he won 2 years ago. So
he was, yeah.
Something to note there. Never over till it's over at the Honda. We've seen Berger blow up before. He blew up at the Travelers one year.
That's right.
With the lead in the final round. But he's closed events too. I don't think you should write Daniel Berger off because of that. Like Reed said, is high variance at the Honda. Anyways, let's move on. Arnold Palmer this week. More elite field, that's for sure. Invitational event. Smaller field, around 125 golfers. It's an invitational event. So, for fantasy purposes, easier to get 6 of 6, at least in theory. This can be an event where we see a lot of chaos too. I remember 2 years ago, it was windy as H, and it was just pure carnage the whole week. I remember Danny Lee and Harris English were in the lead for a bit. And then I think Tara Hatton kind of just grabbed control of the event at the end of the Saturday and kind of hung on Sunday. But the Bay Hill's really tough, man. Like, it's a major championship venue. They grow the rough up here the last few years. I've grown to really start to like this event. I know when Matt Every was winning it, Reed, it was more of a birdie fest. But do you have any like quick notes or anything on the course you want to mention before we get into like talking about the players?
Yeah, I mean, you take a look at the guys who performed well, at a Florida course historically before Bay Hill, it usually carries over, right? I mean, you don't usually get like the Honda and this tournament, the API, they've kind of switched, right, in the scheduling. So it hasn't always been Honda before Arnold Palmer Invitational presented by MasterCard. It's been a little bit of a switcheroo. Last year, I believe this was right after the Players, if I'm not mistaken, or Honda was right after the Players. I can't remember exactly what it was, but usually you see guys play well, right, on one of these courses, also play well, right, on another one. So that's something to note. Yes, the rough is thick. Yes, you need off the tee. You just look, this is going to sound really simplistic and really like we're dumbing it down, but you need to be a good golfer on Florida courses. They can't hold majors, right? You can't have majors in Florida, especially like you can't have the US Open or PGA because it's just too hot.
Yep.
Right. In terms of the scheduling, you can't have it because it's just unbearably hot. And so what do? You make the tournaments that are in Florida major-esque. You make them a little bit more difficult. And that's just the nature of it. There's water on half the holes here that come into play. You mentioned the rough is thick. So I'm looking at guys, like I want guys that even in the longer shots that might have not done well, I want those guys who know that this is going to be the case for 4 days. And can put a good round and can put 4 good rounds together, maybe just 3, and then just hold on for like 1 round.
Yeah. I mean, again, to put it kind of simplistically, like you did too, I mean, it's not really a place where I think a lot of players are necessarily going to like find their game. Like right. if you had a guy struggling to come in, yeah, I mean, maybe he ekes out a made cut or something, but I don't know if you're going to see like someone go from terrible to great on Bay Hill. There's just too much like trouble and water lurking around, and eventually like the doubles will find them. So really major caliber course. Yeah, I think it's kind of what we're expecting from Florida these days, like tougher course, which I really like the Florida swing. Like you said, I mean, it almost feels like another, like, I mean, they're obviously not all major events, but it definitely feels like we get like a string of major caliber courses. Like if you add in like the Valspar too, which is always plays tough. So something to consider. One thing to note too, I know last year, man, like we saw a lot of people who came to came to Bay Hill, play well at Bay Hill, and then go on the next week at the Players and play really well again.
Yeah.
Bryson won, then finished top 5. Lee Westwood was like top 5 at both events. And there's probably a couple other players I'm missing there. I know JT ended up winning it. I don't think he played at Bay Hill last year, although I can't remember off the top of my head now, but regardless, we did have a lot of carryover. So just something to note for next week at the Players, because we got a lot of big contests and stuff. And obviously it's a big event, but for what last thing is, and we'll jump right into the odds here shortly, but from a trend perspective, and I threw this up on Twitter, Bay Hill has rewarded players who've like been here a lot. I mean, it's kind of just been like, either you're like a Bay Hill guy, like you come here, and like the elite players who've come here have tended to grab wins. I mean, you've got Rory, who's played here a bunch. He finally grabbed a win. You've got like Hatton, who had played here a couple times before he grabbed the win. Mm-hmm. Even Bryson, like in his short career, he'd always made a point to come to Arnie's event, to come to Arnie's place. And the trend that I threw out was, I think it's now 6 of the last 7 winners had already posted a top 5 finish at Bay Hill. So it's not just experience, but it's like experience being in the mix at Bay Hill. Right. I always say it's like guys who like really want to be here eventually winning. I don't know, maybe that's taking it too far, but that experience has played a factor in terms of the outright winning. And that's a good segue, because that's where we're going to go. We're going to go to the outright odds here as Reed pulls them up on the screen. What are you looking at? Start from the top. We got Rahm, we got Rory, Scheffler, and Hovland. The dudes all under plus 2,000. Are you touching anyone under plus 2,000?
Probably not. I think it's fine. I think if Fitzpatrick, I know you like him quite a bit this week. I know a lot of people do, and for good reason. You take a look at what he does, especially on long courses, right, Jeff? You don't really think that Fitzpatrick is someone that should do well on long courses, but he does. And that's really a testament to his accuracy off the tee, his long iron game. It's precise. Therefore, it translates to playing well, right, on long courses. Not rocket science there. If I had to choose one of these guys, and again, Rory's bounced, right? Like he was, I think, at higher odds, longer odds right before Bryson withdrew, which makes you think because Bryson was at plus 2,800 when the odds came out. Then he withdraws, and you saw like him. I think Will Zalatoris might have dropped quite a bit, like maybe 3 or 4 points, but only a handful. It wasn't a full market shift, right? It was like the handful of guys that you would think people would shift the win equity to, right? Like, oh, Bryson's out. Okay, I'll put another unit on Rory at plus 1,300. So that was interesting. For me, my favorite is obviously Rory. You just touched on it. He's playing well right now. He plays well at this course, whatever it is, mentally, physically, everything, emotionally. All the things are there lining up for Rory. I'm not worried about his approach and his irons. He's a guy that can get them firing at any point. And we always talk about putting too. Like you don't necessarily want like one stroke putting. And that's nice that they're always gaining, but you want the pops, man. You want the 10 strokes putting, which is potentially what Rory has done in his career. So I like it quite a bit. And if you take a look, like you mentioned, the guys who do well year over year, those guys tend to be in the mix. That's why I think Rory, and then even Sanjay, but under plus 2,000, I think Rory's my favorite.
Yeah, and I mean to the Bryson point, I mean obviously he withdrew, but it didn't affect the odds on the top guys that much. But where it did affect players is kind of under that top tier. Like we saw some players go. I feel like maybe Leishman dropped a bit, maybe not Leishman. I think Paul Casey dropped a bit for sure. So people who are potentially going to be getting on Bryson at that number, maybe went up and more money falling on guys like Scott, Casey, maybe Keith Mitchell, who's now down to plus 4,500. We'll get to those guys in a sec, but yeah, to follow up on your point, I'm completely fine not betting any of these guys. I mean, Scheffler to me is like a little bit interesting this week, but if you're only giving me plus 1,600, it's pretty hard to get on him. I'm with you on Matthew Fitzpatrick. I mean, if you follow me on Twitter, I like him this week, but this number it's strange. I mean, for whatever reason, we're only getting plus 2,000 on Fitzpatrick this week. Clearly, who's making the odds targeted Fitzpatrick as a potential, guy of interest here. And we certainly aren't getting any gifts in his odds of plus 2,000. I don't think that anyone's saying Matthew Fitzpatrick, you just can't bet him at this number is wrong. I do think he's got a great shot this week though. I mean, he's shown like better tee to green play over his first 2 starts, played well in Phoenix, his first time there. I think the only reason he wasn't in contention at Phoenix, I think it was just an experience factor. He just didn't seem to handle the around the greens game there as well as he maybe could have. But one thing Matthew Fitzpatrick has in bundles is experience playing Bay Hill. How old is Fitzpatrick, Reed? Do you know off the top of your head?
I think I want to say he's like early 30s. Maybe he's
he's not. There's no way he's 30 years old.
Really? I feel like, maybe he's been around for so long. It's like a Hideki thing where I feel like he's older than he is. Maybe I was going to say like late
27.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say like 28 to 31. I thought like around because he's been around for so long, and like you mentioned, Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say he's 27. This will be his 8th year playing Bay Hill.
Yeah. So
he has been here, and look, like Bay Hill, Arnie, they always used to give like younger players a go at it, and they still do, like John Pack and stuff in the event this year. But Fitzpatrick has been playing this event for a while, man. And I mean, he was in the final group one year here too, so he's got that like experience being in the mix. That's probably why his number is so low this week, and the fact he's playing better. But I do like him. I mean, it's one of those things where I think it's a player ready to win. He's more talented than I think people really give him credit for. And as you mentioned, he handles tough golf courses very well. He's not a bomber by any stretch, but like a Webb Simpson, like when he finds fairways and he's actually pretty high up in like total drive, he's actually a better driver of the ball than Webb Simpson. He can really get it going and handle these tougher courses. So I don't know, man. I'm not going to say like, just go all in on Matthew Fitzpatrick at plus 2,000. The number is ridiculous, but Yeah, I do like him this week.
So Jeff's MO is picking European golfers or international golfers that are really good at
Yes.
like runner-up finishes and not winning on the PGA Tour. And that's what you worry about. Look, his best finish in 2019 is a runner-up at this course, right? So you can't get much closer than he hasn't won yet. But like, where does he like to play? He likes to play here.
In Fitzpatrick's defense, he's won numerous times
Sure.
around the world.
Around the world. So has Louis, and Louis won a major, right? We're talking about Louis Oosthuizen, obviously. But you take a look at the guys since 2017, Jeff, at this course in strokes gained total, Fitzy is fourth, right? In total strokes gained on this course since 2017. The only guys above him, Leishman, Bryson, and Rory over that same time frame. And if you're not betting Rory at a plus 1,000, you maybe Leishman, Leishman missed the cut last year here. But he's won and then came runner up in 2020. Like, who's the best who's the like next best guy? It's Fitzpatrick at plus 2,000. It's just, you got to get over. And this is something I wanted to talk to you about. And just like, I try to wrap my head around it, is you look at some of the, like, you look at the board and you look at some of these numbers, and part of me says, okay, well, here's a value that I think this guy his number is too long because I think his perceived value is X, but his right now it's Y. There's also guys too that I look at are saying, why is he that? There's no way that his number should be that, right? And Fitzpatrick, let's say Bryson was still in the field and Fitzpatrick was at plus 2,200. That feels like the book saying, we don't want you to bet him because that number is not great and his win equity is high.
And let's not forget, like 3 weeks ago when we had the Phoenix Open, Scotty Scheffler was basically in the exact same situation as Fitzpatrick. Yep. He was plus 2,200. And, everyone was like, wow, you can't bet him at that number. And I think people still did it. Are we maybe just talking ourselves? Like, let's do this. Let's rank Zalatoris, Matsuyama, Sung J M, Fitzpatrick. Where would you rank those guys in terms of just like where their odds are at right now in the DraftKings Sportsbook? And then you got to rank them. Who's your favorite bet from those four guys?
I'd probably, from where it is now, I'd probably just switch Sanjay and Fitzy in terms of where I think they should be, which means my favorite bet right now is Sanjay.
It's Sanjay, yeah, and that's fine. Yeah,
it's about plus 2,200.
I mean, look, he's more than double the odds of last week. So
exactly. So, and that's the thing, right? Is that's what I also look at as well, especially in the Florida swing, right? I'm not saying like, oh, Sanjay's usually at mid 30s and YC here at low 20s. He was a favorite in the field last week. Granted, it was a much weaker field than it is now, but John Rahm, Rory McIlroy soak up a lot of that win equity, and you see Sanjay, who's performed well. Look, Sanjay also came so close to winning the Masters. Let's not forget about it. So is Fitzpatrick, right? So those are other things you got to take a look at as well. Is that it's not necessarily just. I'm not like Sanjay lost 1 million strokes approach last week, but I know like long form, he's fantastic. And he's got the, the in between the years, the strokes gained in between the years around Florida courses. So he's probably my favorite bet. But, full disclosure, I bet Willie Z, because if he wins and I'm not on him, I would be so angry, especially having Willie Z ticket at the Farmers. So
I think there's a lot of people getting on Will Zalatoris this week for that reason alone. Can Zalatoris sink enough putts here to win? I mean, he probably can. It's just,
that's a big if. That's a big ask.
Yeah, he's
like asking Svensson to make a 2-foot putt. It's not happening.
We'll see. I definitely like Zalatoris for DraftKings play this week.
Yeah.
I mean, the value has to be Hideki here. Like, he's the Masters champ. He's won twice now in the last 6 months. He's the most prolific winner of the bunch, and he's plus 2,500 compared to Sungjae and Fitzpatrick. I still feel like I'd just rather bet Fitzpatrick. It's just one of those things where I feel like it's coming soon for Fitzpatrick. He won last fall, like over on the Euro Tour. I see that like improved ball striking, and it just, you just get the feeling like it's going to come, much like with Scheffler when he like struck the ball well at the Farmers. You just like, okay, this guy has been ready for a while. And now it looks primed at Phoenix. And I just getting the same feelings this week with Fitzpatrick. So that's my take. I know the number is terrible. I'm not arguing that at all. I mean, much rather have him available at plus 3,000. And if you got him at that price, great for you. But Even now, you got to make a conviction call. That'll be my conviction call on Fitzpatrick. So
like in this case, sorry, Jared, in this case, let's say you missed out on the plus 3,000, right? So this is a good practice in like value assessment. And, you think you like Fitzpatrick so much, but you're telling yourself a story like, well, I can't invest at plus 2,000. Would you, let's say you're betting a full unit on Fitzpatrick at plus 3,000. Would you then just allocate more units to Fitzpatrick at plus 2,000? Like instead of just doing one unit at plus 3,000, would you go a unit and a half at plus 2,000?
I mean, when you bet a guy that's lower in the odds, obviously, I mean, that's certainly one way to do it. You just, instead of taking like that extra guy at like plus 8,000 or something. Yeah. You just cross that guy off and you go heavier on Fitzpatrick. But that's the kind of conviction you'll need to bet him at this number, right? Like it's going to cost you more your units for the week, your weekly allocation or whatever. So, but I don't mind doing that this week. I mean, I'm not super confident in like Rom coming up here and cleaning the board his first time playing Bay Hill. I also think a lot of the top players kind of focused on next week, whereas a guy like Fitzpatrick and Zalatoris, the same deal. I don't mind betting Zalatoris this week either, by the way. I mean, if you're doing that, that's fine. But these dudes are looking for their first win. Like they'd love to win Arnie's event. And I'm not saying like Rory wouldn't love to win here again, but the big cheese for like Rom and guys is next week at the Players. So that's kind of my feeling. I like targeting these Fitzpatrick like down to Adam Scott range, which we'll go to next year. We've got, Hatton plus 28, Leishman plus 28, Casey plus 35, Scott plus 35. And I mean, we can do the same thing. I mean, I'm out on Hatton this week, although, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's played fine in Europe. I just don't like taking guys coming over to tough course. Like we saw what PJ National did to Tommy Fleetwood last week. Kind of the same story for Hatton this week. He's coming in cold. Leishman, I feel like could potentially be getting overlooked here. He can really light it up with the putter and he loves these greens. But I think like Casey and Scott are like two veterans who, again, they'd love to grab a win at Bay Hill before their career's over. They're both playing really well. And I mean, they've got the experience, like we said, like the trends. I mean, Adam Scott's finished top 5 here numerous times. Paul Casey was 10th here last year. Any one of those guys float your boat, or are you just like bypassing this range or what?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always a fan of Paul Casey. I'm a fan of Paul Casey when he's like in the mid 50s though.
Sure. That's fair. That's
right.
Fair.
Plus 3,500. But
look, Paul Casey is like the English Zalatoris. I mean,
right.
Yeah, maybe his putter shows up this week, but like likely it won't. Like it's way more likely it won't. So
like I'll bet him at Valspar or for a 3-peat. Sure. Yeah. But it's this guy right here. It's Scotty. It's the beige bomber. All beige, all day, baby. No, I think he's sporting the maroon. That's why I wore my maroon QZ in solidarity with Scotty and his Uniqlo, just having the same sweater every single day. He doesn't care. But plus 3,500. This is where it correlates to the trend that you're talking about. He's got a top 5. I think it's top 3 in his career here. He gained I don't know if this is an anomaly. I do know it's an anomaly where he gained 7.2 strokes putting at the Genesis. That's not broomstick Adam Scott. That's usually not his MO, right? It's ball striking, total driving approach, long iron proximity. He's just dialed in with those attributes, right, in his game. That's what he does. Now, if he's asked to, get up and down, it scares me a little bit because with Adam Scott, that flag stick will be in and that ball is not going to drop as much as it should. But I think at plus 3,500, I think it's a solid number. If you got it early in the market, it was maybe a little bit higher, even better. But he's someone too, and I think I read this somewhere, and I forget where. Maybe it was Tom Jacobs on Twitter, which he bring up a good point, is that post-pandemic, like post-shutdown and coming back, this guy hasn't won yet, right? He hasn't won in so long. And I think his game is too solid. I think he's on that resurgence when he didn't really leave.
He's playing more.
Yeah, he should win. And he's playing more. He's more committed, I guess, now to the PGA Tour and to the schedule. These guys have a little bit more normalized their schedule, right? Him, Justin Rose, so on and so forth. So give me Adam Scott plus 3,500. Sorry, no, out on Russell Henley, out on Keith, even though Keith is everyone's favorite. And I don't mind Max Homa, but give me Adam Scott.
Yeah, Homa is kind of interesting. And look, I'm on Casey and Scott this week, although at different odds than this. I think the plus 35 on Scott is actually pretty appealing.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know Hatton's good, and like Leishman's my boy, but like Adam Scott right now is probably ahead of both those dudes. So I think like he's probably at plus 3,500 the best value that we're getting. He's been a good Florida player too, like throughout his career. I mean, he won back to back in Florida one season at the Honda, and I think the old Doral WGC event when it was played at Doral, and then he's got the Players Championship win too. So Adam Scott, no stranger to grabbing big wins in this state or on this swing. This has typically been like when he's peaked. He's really never been like a huge West Coast guy. But the fact he's been playing to start the year, I think is a great sign. He's been playing more since basically, over the last 6 months. I think it's a fantastic number for him.
Yeah. He's not great. He doesn't have great history here like over the past 5 years. I think his best since 2017 was a 41st. Missed cut, but he hadn't played yet. Like he didn't play, I think 17, 19, and he didn't play last year, I don't think.
I think he played last year, didn't he?
Oh, did he? Yeah, then like maybe it might have been 2020 where he didn't play.
Maybe
he didn't play. He didn't play last year. Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
He takes it off every other year, looks like.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, look, that actually does speak to another trend, which is that most winners here played the year prior. So I don't know. I'm not like that concerned about it, but it's something to note. I still think Scott is a great bet, and I think he's a good value there.
Yeah.
At plus 3,500. Like I said, I mean, it's kind of like the Hideki versus the other crew down below him. Like Adam Scott versus the crew below him, I think is just a little bit overpriced. So
yeah. All right, Max Homa getting a lot of love though on Twitter. Maybe not because his outright number, more because it was a snub on the PIP list.
A big snub. Yeah. I mean, Mac, again, and to this, we could talk about this. What is it? What is the PIP?
I think it's Performance Improvement Program. I think
Performance Improvement Program. It's basically a social media award. Who's getting the most engagement on social media? It's a bonus award. It was just announced like an hour ago who got it. Tiger won because Tiger posted like one clip of him hitting range balls, and that probably got about 50 million clicks in 10 seconds. So Phil was second, even though Phil
performance. Player Impact Program.
Program.
That makes way more sense. But go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, I liked your stretch, but yeah. And then Phil was second, and then we just had a bunch of like random good players. Like John Rahm, Jordan Spieth was like fourth. I didn't even know Jordan Spieth had a Twitter account. So I mean, I don't know how he got fourth. People probably just searched Jordan Spieth's name a lot last year.
Bubba Watson was 10th.
Bubba Watson was 10th. Bubba sometimes makes like funny videos, so I give Bubba credit. He's out there like creating original stuff sometimes.
JT was 6th. I don't like JT doesn't do anything on right. Like, look, so
JT sometimes. I don't know.
The category. So like this categories were Google, Meltwater, Nielsen, Q Score, MVP Index, right? Like whatever that means. Those are like the metrics, right? And then you aggregate that all up. That's why Tiger is number 1, Phil's number 2, Roy number 3. The big snub, though, number 11, Colin Morikawa.
Wow.
And he's made it a point on his social media accounts to put 11 where the L's are supposed to be and always hashtagging number 11, that he was just because it's the top 10 who make money.
Right.
The 11th, 0 in terms of the PIP.
A steep drop off. It's a winner take all scenario, apparently.
Yeah. So anyway.
I don't know, man. I mean,
the rich keep on getting
the rich get richer, man, on the PGA. I mean, I really thought when they first announced this program, and I probably just read into it wrong, that this was going to be like a chance to award like guys who are out there on social media.
Joel Dahman, Max Homa, Fratelli.
Joel Dahman. I thought those guys would maybe like see some rewards from this, but this is essentially just a bonus program for the big boys.
Yeah.
If that's what it is, fine, I guess. But man, like could you imagine being like a Dahman, or like let's even like pick someone a little bit
Pat
more
Perez.
Pat Perez has been around for who's like a Tyler Duncan. Like, can you imagine being like Tyler Duncan? You're scraping by, like you get like 124th, you're showing up, and the PGA is like, oh yeah, we're announcing this program, and then it's like, oh, here, like we're just giving like $5 million to these guys, and then you guys get nothing.
Well, like, look, it's a self-fulfilling, like it's chicken for the egg, right? Like these, like the guys who have the biggest social media accounts, because for lack of better explanation, That's what it is.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you have the biggest user base, you're going to have the biggest engagement. The Kramer Hickocks of the world, the Tyler Duncans of the
Kramer
world.
Hickok went for it. I mean, he made a late run with the Saudi stuff.
Right. You got like 10,000, 20,000 followers. These guys have 2 million. So like it's like it's no contest.
It's like those guys don't. I mean, obviously, especially after seeing what happened this year. I mean, those guys aren't. That's basically doesn't even concern them. It's basically the top 20 players in the world vying for some supreme, because those are the guys who get searched, right? Like if Google searches and stuff are part of it, and Twitter searches, whatever. I mean, like no one except us random like golf analysts and golf junkies are searching Tyler Duncan's name, unfortunately. So, anyways, just something that interesting that happened today. And I mean, look, the PGA obviously making profit hand over foot here. They're rewarding their top players. I get it. The top players bring in the money. I'm not suggesting that, giving back to the players is a bad idea. It's just interesting the way it broke down. I really thought some more grassroots type of players would be getting bonuses from this, but apparently I was wrong. So fine. Maybe more things like that will be announced in the future. I don't know. Anyways, let's finish off our betting analysis here for the week. We're gonna blow past Henley, who I like and maybe could be a dark horse this week, but he's not big enough at plus 4,000. We start to get some interesting names at plus 5,000 though. I mean, we mentioned Fitzpatrick's course history here. We got Tommy Fleetwood at plus 5,000. Mm-hmm. He's played here a bunch too. Sam Burns, at plus 5,000. I mean, this guy was going off like plus last year. 18. Yeah, he won the Valspar. He's going off like plus 1,800 in events like just like 2 months ago. Justin Rose has played Bay Hill a ton. Anybody over plus 5,000? Who floats your boat here?
Yeah, so I'm always a huge fan of McNeely. I like his game. Sam Burns, that just feels like if Sam Burns was like at plus 3,500, plus 3,000, you and I wouldn't bat an eye. Like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So just based off of that, like it seems like that should be the play. But for whatever reason, I'm an idiot and I'm not going to bet Sam Burns. He's probably going to win. But we got a question here from Miguel 1984 about Justin Rose bounce back game. And that's where I want to go to, is that Rosie at plus 6,000. Talk about course history. This guy has, especially during the Tiger years, he's been someone that has been contending here for quite some time. The game's like it's coming back. At Pebble Beach, he was not great, but I don't really necessarily. I don't take that. I don't take a ton of stock into that. But I like him. I like Rosie quite a bit. You talk about a guy who can. Again, we talk about these players who, when they get into the mix, because that's what you're looking for, is that if they get in contention on Saturday, Sunday, can they stay there? Justin Rose to me is one of those guys that I feel confident at this range. Corey Connors was runner-up or top 3 last year. That's fine. Cam Young is getting a lot of love, but at plus 7,000, give me a break. I really like him, but he has to be triple digits for me. So I like Justin Rose. I like Justin Rose right there, and I'll reserve the guys who I like in the triple digits past plus 10,000. But he's the one player that for me is sitting there. Love Billy Horschel. Taylor Gooch is also there. This is really the range that I had the biggest, like the hardest time with, Jeff, because there's a ton of guys that I like in this range that could really pay up. When you look at the odds, the average odds, winning odds of the past 5 years, it's around 4,000, like 4,500, right around there. So this is right around that range of these guys who are kind of on the cusp. Maybe they haven't had good, finishes over the last handful of weeks. Don't have a lot of course history here, but can definitely play well. So I like Justin Rose quite a bit. Might sprinkle in some guys late tonight when you're not supposed to.
Rose was essentially a birdie away on the 18th hole at the Farmers from getting in that playoff. Then he dunked his approach. I think he was going for the eagle because I think he thought he needed an eagle or something. But I mean, he was right there. Like that was two starts ago. So yeah, I don't hate it. I think I'd probably prefer to bet Justin Rose like a top 10 or something. But yeah, I mean, he can get hot enough with the putter where if he does hit it like that again, I mean, yeah, it could happen. He's I feel like Justin Rose probably has one more big win left in him. I'm probably not going to go there. I think this range, if I was going to go, to that, to around where he is, I'd probably just take a chance with like a Fleetwood, maybe a Sergio. But I mean, again, it's going to be maybe even go back to Bezuidenhout, who actually played pretty well last week and has some course history. So probably Fleetwood or Bezuidenhout for me. I'd probably just go with the bigger upside with like Tommy or Bez, who, I mean, again, they can get hot with the putter too. Fleetwood's ball striking was terrible last week, but it just gets so skewed on PGA National. I think this will be like Fleetwood's 4th or 5th start of the year. He played a couple times over in Europe. So I'd probably rather go there, but Rose definitely, like, I think for a top 10 is super interesting. Maybe even like next week, a player to keep an eye on. If he plays well here this week, he's had some pretty solid finishes in Florida over the last couple of years. So I don't hate that call at all. I'm not going to touch like Woodland or Gooch or anything like that. So now we're kind of sorry.
Jason Kokrak.
Kokrak. Oh man, I mean,
I bet Kokrak.
I mean, look, I don't even think it's a bad bet. I was on a show with Raza yesterday for Osimo, and
yeah,
we both agreed, like, if Kokrak keeps winning, we're gonna be broke, because like I haven't been on any of the Kokrak wins. I never bet him. This dude has gained like 46 strokes putting over his last 50 rounds. I mean, but the thing is, like, I don't know when it's gonna end, and it feels like he's just like the next Jimmy Walker, who's just gonna win like twice a year for the next like 5 years and then call it a career or something, go through this insanely hot stretch. I think he's got fantastic upside. I can't pull the trigger on him. I mean, I'm just waiting for like the old Jason Kokrak to show up.
Right.
Who was like miscut, 10th.
Look, over the
miscut, 10th.
Past 50 rounds, though, at Bay Hill, Innisbrook, which is where they play Valspar, Sawgrass, and PGA National, Kokrak, over those 4 tournaments over the past 50 rounds, he's first in ball striking. So essentially on Florida courses, he's first in ball striking, which you then think, okay, well, why isn't he winning more? It's because he can't putt. Remember at Valspar when Paul Casey won? Like, he was like green. He was essentially an inch off the green. And I think instead of putting it, he chipped it and he like chili dipped it, because he's so like, he's just not confident with flat stick. But if you take a look at ball striking, he's 3rd and off the tee and 4th in approach on those specific courses, over the last 50 rounds on Fantasy National. So look, it's Kokrak. He's in this field, but we've seen this, man. We saw him win at Sherwood. Was it at Sherwood? With the Zozo when it was in Vegas.
I think it was Sherwood. Yeah.
This guy just look, he's like a Vegas. I think he's a Vegas resident, or maybe like, I don't know if he practices out of there. So maybe it was a little bit, he was feeling comfortable, but like in Florida, this guy just does really well. I mean, but
he just does well everywhere these days. I mean, he's got 3 wins over the past 3 years. Colonial, Houston, a shell over the fall, and then, like we said, the limited field events. So I don't know, man. I mean, I wouldn't be even shocked about it at this point if it happens again. I just can't pull the trigger, but it's probably a fine number. Anyways, let's quickly go over some long shots, because then like we're like burning daylight here, and we haven't even touched fantasy side of it. So we'll quickly go over some fantasy side. But anyone over 8,000, like you betting Keegan, or just give me your top 2 plays quickly.
Oh yeah, Ian Poulter, number 1 at plus 10,000. Give me I want him to gain 8 strokes putting. I don't care. He's not going to gain much off the tee. He didn't last week, but he gained through approach. It didn't look great. A lot more squares and circles on the old card for Pulte. But like, look, I mean, if he gets in the mix, that he flips a switch, man. If he's top 5 coming into Saturday or Sunday, he flips a switch. I like that number at plus 1,000 or plus 10,000. He's finished top 5 here in his career, Jeff. Granted, it was like 45 years ago, but give me that. I love that in terms of the trends. And looking a little further down, like I tried to wrap my head around Matt Wolff, be like how is this guy plus 11,000 right now? And we need off the tee. But if you look at his numbers off the tee, they have been atrocious. You mentioned at the top of the show, you're not going to find your game here. That's why I'm staying away from him. And Thomas Peters.
Yeah.
Thomas Peters at plus 13,000. But Ian Poulter, my favorite.
I mean, Wolff is a dude, like, if you should probably just bet him every week, like that he's like above plus 5,000, because his win in Minnesota, I think he was coming off like 3 missed cuts. When he finished runner-up at Detroit, like, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, he was coming off a couple missed cuts. It's just the way he plays right now. He's just inconsistent, and maybe it's a mental thing, but like, when everything is rolling, I mean, like when the off the tee game is going, I mean, he gets in contention. So I don't know. I'm not saying this is Matt Wolff's week to turn around. I mean, it's a Florida course. He was terrible last week. I don't know, but I mean, Matt Wolff's going to win a bunch more times on the PGA.
Oh my! It wasn't so long ago when he was playing well.
No, I was the fall. He just about won the Shriners. He was right there. So,
I don't like when he plays bad. He's like sulking around the course. I really don't like that.
No, it was. I mean, last week was.
What did he shoot? 81.77. He looks like Matthew Lazio on a par 3 executive course in Florida. Come on.
We should get DraftKings to put him up as Matthew Lazio next week if he shoots another 80.
Yeah.
I don't know. Wolff is. I almost feel like I'm just like going to sprinkle a bit on him tonight.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Just in case, just in case. I don't know.
It took me so long to not bet him, and it took me so little for you to convince me to get some action on him.
It's just like if it was like plus 3,000 like he was last week, yeah, sure. Like I'm not going to do that, but man, I don't know. Like he'll pop again, and we'll all be like, wow, why didn't we just sprinkle? And look, it's like a long-term thing. If you got like an average of plus 10,000 on Matthew Wolff over the next 10 events, and you just sprinkle them, or the next 20 events, or even, I mean, next 30 events, you're probably going to profit because he's probably going to pop for a win soon. Anyways, I bet Ricky, I like him more for a top 10, really, realistically, but he is plus 15,000, and other players' odds just through the roof. Ricky can look good with the putter. He changed putters. Reed, I don't know if you know that, but it really helped him out at the Honda. He gained like 5 strokes putting. So I'll ride that momentum. I also like Lucas Glover down there, plus 15,000, excuse me. He hit it well last week, just couldn't find a putt, but he's kind of like Casey in that regard. He might show up, but a couple long shots to sprinkle on there. I don't mind. Let's hit fantasy for like 5 minutes because that's about all we got left.
Yeah, man. Like so like you mentioned on the sweat that you're comfortable fading the top guys at 5 digits and above. While I slandered your character on the show, or your intelligence on the show, I later thought about it and I was like, that's not a bad strategy.
Well, and like most weeks we come in and the balanced approach, I think, is like the more popular one. And it tends to be the more chalky lineup. I don't think that's going to be the case this week.
Right.
I think Rahm and Rory are really going to get both like close to the same ownership and the top 2 owned of the top 5 for sure. And I think there's so many sort of value-ish plays that people are kind of gravitating towards, like even around and under 7K, like Munoz, Keegan's down there, a couple other names we probably haven't mentioned. But I think the balanced approach by starting with like a guy like Zalatoris and Fitzpatrick, or like Scott and Zalatoris, I don't think it's going to be that popular. So I'm looking to do that. And that really lets you load up on guys in like the 8K, high 7K range. So yeah, like, I mean, if you take a look at, you said Zalatoris and Scott here, your average salary is then 7,900. Like you can throw Casey in. You can even go Fitzpatrick and start those 3,
even if you wanted to go down, right, then take the sort of like a pseudo stars and scrubs and you wanted to roster, Garrett Higgo, like he didn't play great last week, but there were some flashes where.
Well, what about Matthew Lazio's boy, Sam Rough Rider? I mean,
Sam Ryder. God, if that Sam Ryder, give me a break. He's a good player. Like he's a good player. But the fact that he gained 1,000 strokes on the greens last week to finish T9, and our guys did.
Maybe it's the new Kokrak. He's gonna win like 3 times
exactly. This year. But like, look, like even if you did that, right, you're now average salaries in the low 8s. Yeah, that's a pretty good. Yeah, that's a pretty good card. And look, we know that the winners of this tournament have been shorter in the odds. Their overall world golf rankings probably within the top 50. And those placement points are definitely there. But look at what we've seen, Jeff, over the past, 6-7 tournaments now this year. It's not necessarily the top guys winning. The Sepp Strakas, the Tom Hoagies, right? Scheffler was one of the top guys. He won. But it's not necessarily the Rorys, the Rahms of the world. So they soak up all of the costs and all the win equity. But you're left with the Fitzpatricks of the world, the Sanjays, maybe Adam Scott, those guys filling in those lineups a lot heavier than like the top guy and getting those placement points. So if you're looking at being contrarian, then yeah, I agree. Like that pseudo balance. So I was thinking about it, like not necessarily going all balance, but like half balance, half like, Sorry, or like
still using a heavy value play like under 7K, but still not really going over 10K.
Because it's Florida. Like we've seen the Matt Everys of the world win, right? We've seen those guys play well. The Corey Conn, Lee Westwood was runner-up last year.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like we've seen those guys win. I think one year there was 3 or 4 guys instead of the $6,000 salary range that were in the top 5 in DraftKings scoring. So that's what Florida does, is that it gives those guys a way better chance. Like Andrew Putnam, Carlos Ortiz, I think are 2 solid players right now in the $6,000 range that you could put in there. Dylan Fratelli, like if it wasn't for like a horrible front 9 on Sunday, he was right there. He finished T16 last week. So yeah.
There you go. Maybe I'm not as crazy as I sound.
No.
Okay. I was gonna do some like, actually that was on the betting side. I was gonna get us to go over like top 20, but let's just stick with fantasy. Who okay, let's bring it back.
Yeah.
Quickly, let's do your favorite top 20 and favorite matchup bet, and that'll pretty much bring us to the end of the show.
Favorite top 20. Oh, like not counting the favorites, obviously. Well, why not? Like Sanjay's definitely there, but let's go a little bit deeper. Guys that we can actually get. You know what? I'll go Justin Rose. I think Justin Rose is going to be there at plus 200. Double your money there. Okay. Really like that. Or better than double your money. So give me Justin Rose at plus 200. And then matchup, I actually like Zalatoris over Scheffler because you're getting plus money in Zalatoris at plus 105. I saw that.
Yeah, I don't mind that one at all. Actually.
Yeah, just in round 1.
I think Zalatoris probably at the very worst like rounds out another top 10 here. So
yeah.
Again, we're talking about odds here as well.
Then Bailey Horschel. Like Bailey Horschel plus 115 over Victor. Even though I like Vic, Horschel's at plus.
Well, I mean, that was my big call this morning too, that Hovland was going to miss the cut. So, I mean, I guess I kind of have to like that one, although I'm not really a big Bailey Horschel guy. I like for a top 20 bet, I like Danny Willett to hit a top 20, played really good tee to green, just ball striking wise last week. And that's going to end it because we are out of time, folks. I will throw out one quick NBA bet I like tonight. Reed, the New Orleans Pelicans. That's a hard word to say. -6. They're playing better. That's going to be my NBA play. I don't have anything on the NHL side, but for Reed Fowler, for myself, go check out Reed's stuff at Reed T. Fowler on Twitter. DK Nation, you can find both our stuff up. Got the PJ cheat sheet, Reed's best bets. Go there now. Have a great day, folks. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back with the slate tomorrow. I think it's a Kaufman show. Is it you and Kaufman?
It's me and Kaufman, yeah. All
Adam
sports.
Kaufman and Reed's back to bring some sanity to the show. Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern. Peace out, guys. Have a good one.
Shout out Matt Lazia.